Hi everyone, Joe here, Data Science Building Blocks. Welcome back everyone. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is a series, so I highly encourage you to go back and follow along chronologically, save your work so you can end up in the same spot here with the rest of us. However, if you're just interested in learning the very basics of GGplot in the tidyverse library in RStudio, that's what we're going to cover today. So if you have been following along, go ahead and open up your Data Science Building Blocks R worksheet. And if you just go ahead and open up RStudio tends to open up whatever it is you did last time. So this is the screen that I'm on, but if you don't see your worksheet that you saved, just do File, Open File, and go ahead and navigate to the notebook that you had saved. So you'll see our code from last time. I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. I should have probably put more comments in here, so I'm just going to space this out and say practice, session 1. And under the tidyverse library that we imported last time, we can just call this tidyverse practice, also session 1, because I want to do this in the same notebook this time. So tidyverse last time, I probably should have discussed this a little more. It is an actual package that we installed. So tidyverse is an entire package, which is really just a collection of libraries. And a library is nothing more than a bunch of stored functions and code that other people have wrote that we can leverage. So instead of actually writing all of the code here to filter our table and mutate, we can use this mutate function like we did last time that somebody else has already defined for us, and then just go ahead and input the inputs that it requires, the parameters that it requires, and it'll spit out our information. So today in the tidyverse library, we're going to focus on the GGplot library. So sorry, I said tidyverse library. Packages and libraries are used interchangeably a lot of the time. Tidyverse is really just an overall robust package, very well known, and within it there are a bunch of libraries. The GGplot library is what we are going to focus on today for plotting. So I'll go ahead and do a comment, and we'll call this GGplot practice session 2. And under that, so now if you've just opened this and you didn't already have it open, you probably have to run everything again. So I'm just going to do a Control A, select everything. If you're on a Mac, just select everything, and then you can click Run, do a Control Enter, and you'll see it's starting to run everything all over again. Hopefully no errors. We didn't have any errors last time. Doesn't look like I have any errors now. And you will see that it's storing all of the data from last time here, and it ran the empty cars here as my data frame. I can X that out now. Everything looks pretty good. And from here, we've got some code written and some more information here just in a notepad. I've got some info for you here. We're going to cover using the dot groups and more functions. I will start out here by just doing a basic plot. In GGplot, we'll use the empty cars and use our AES function, which, as you can see in the middle of the screen here, is just an aesthetic mapping function. We put arguments in here, and we can put arguments like color if we want to color our graph, or X and Y axis, or like labels, and you'll see how we use this here as we go. But just to start here, we'll call this plot, GGplot, and we've already, just by doing library tidyverse, we have everything that we need inside of it. So GGplot we already have, and you can see that it's a function inside of GGplot. So we're good to just do this after we've done library tidyverse and have run that piece of code, which we have when we selected everything. And in here, we're going to use our empty cars data set, the AES function next, to say what it is we want to plot. And in this case, let's just do x equals gear. do a control enter. You see that it ran here, no problems. I can click this plot here and it tells you what's being stored here, the data, the layers, the scales. This is us leveraging everything inside of the GGplot function. Also, so it's a function and a library. It's an important note here. We're accessing the GGplot function from the GGplot library within tidyverse here. So next, we can go ahead and plot this, and we can do this by flip back to my code by doing a plt plus whatever plot we want. And if we start to write it here, you can see all of the options. Let's just do a bar chart. I just clicked it and control enter, and it will run for us down here. So we told our AES function x equals gear, so that's the x-axis now, and it actually puts gear down here underneath. And if we go to our data frame, our table for empty cars, we can see that we have 3, 4, and 5 gears on all of those 32 cars, and here's the count under them. So it looks like we have about 15 here, 12 here, and another 5 or so here. So that's somewhere around those 32 cars. If we want to change this up, instead of doing a bar chart, we can do geom and see what else we have. Column here. Do control enter, and this is going to yell at me. So it says error, and it tells us that aesthetically we need a y value. So that's what you saw in my notepad. Instead of just doing x equals gear, now we want to plot something else. So we can do y equals, let's see what I tried to do, vehicle count. So the problem is I don't have a good column in the data already. Like vehicle count doesn't exist in my data, so I can't just run vehicle count. You know, if I do, it'll store it in the PLT variable, but then when I go to run this third piece of code here, it's going to say vehicle count not found. Yeah, I could put something else in y, like horsepower, and control enter there, come back down, control enter here, and it will run. But this isn't exactly what I want. I actually want to do a count. So I'm going to get you to the same answer here as we ended up on in the geom bar. Again, I'll run that. See, this already does a count for us. Oh, sorry, we have to erase our y. Run that again. Run the geom bar, and now this plot is showing you a count. If I want to use the column, though, I actually need to give it a y-axis. So I'm going to get you to the same answer we got when we ran the geom bar, but there are going to be times where you need to generate a geom column chart, and you need to use an x and a y axis. So I will show you how to do that. We need to group by and do a count. So group by gear and do a count of everything per gear. So we can just call this empty cars count. We're going to store this and empty cars, and we'll use that pipe operator from the first time in conjunction with our group by function. And you can see that this is coming. I didn't mention this last time, but if you have a function, if you're typing a function, it will actually tell you where it comes from. So dplyr is a library also within tidyverse, so we have access to this. We can do group by and gear, and then we want to do a summarize, do another pipe operator and a summarize. Again, this comes from that same dplyr library within tidyverse, within that package. And in the summarize, we can do, call it vehicle count. So now we'll actually have it equals, and then this is just to do your count. And then your next argument in the summarize is a dot groups equals, see it popped up for me there. And we can do a keep. And it already closed the parenthesis. So see in that worksheet I have here, you can screenshot this, take some notes, pause the video. Your dot groups equals keep. It just keeps the grouping that we have, that we tell it. So sorry about that. That's what we want to use in this case. So do dot groups equals keep. Pretty sure this is everything we need in our function. looks good. So let's run this empty cars count. It did not like our .groups equals keep for some reason. It might just be the capital K, and it was, so I changed that to lowercase. I guess that needs to be lowercase, and then clicked Control Enter. So now we can comment out this old plt .gm call and do a new one under here, plt plus geom call for column, run that, and of course we get an error again, right, because we don't have our y anymore up here. So let's do a copy this whole line here, and let's paste it. Let's call it plt2, and then we can add a y equals vehicle count here, and then remember to change this to pl2 geom call. So now I need to run both of these lines, so I'll run that one, Control Enter, and run that one, Control Enter, and vehicle count not found again. And that's because we're still looking at empty cars here. We need to actually look at our new empty cars count that we've created here. So I'll do an underscore, run this again, and then run this one here, and now we have recreated our first chart, but using a different function. If I click on plt2, sorry, not plt2, empty cars count, we can see exactly what we've plotted. This is the group by and summarize that we've created to show the vehicle count by gear. So we actually have a little table visual here as well. Okay, so just some quick cleanup, and then that's all I really wanted to show you for today. Next time we'll jump into scatter plots, and we'll fully leverage the AES function to do a little bit more coloring and making the graphs a little bit more pretty and usable. But to just clean it up, I'm going to call this GGplot geom call chart. And just under here, I'm going to do a comment GGplot geom bar chart. And we can just get rid of this one altogether. Now, if you were to run this workbook, you'd have two identical charts, but using two different methods. And hopefully this is helping you connect the dots and learn what's going on here. So save your work, and I'll see you in the next one.